Let's take a look at a significant arms deal from a European ally. Sweden has formally greenlit a historic deal to supply Ukraine with up to 20 brand new Gripen E/F fighter jets, alongside 16 older Gripen C/D models as direct military aid. President Zelensky has signed a letter of intent for up to 150 of these jets to rebuild Ukraine's air force. But we need to be realistic. Yuri Hinat, Ukraine's head of Air Force Communications, has rightly warned us to avoid lazy game-changer clichés. These jets won't change the front lines overnight. Just like the F-16s, Ukraine is getting older models first, and any new platform must be tested in real combat conditions. However, as a military planner, I see three massive advantages to the Gripen. First, they're incredibly cheap to maintain and easy to operate. They're designed to operate out of austere sites. Secondly, they were built specifically for Cold War conditions, just like the Ukrainians are fighting in. They can take off from short, dispersed runways and even civilian roads, meaning they're more agile to avoid Russian missile strikes on airfields. Ground crews can fully refuel them and rearm them for air missions in less than 10 minutes. You can hot refuel these aircraft when they're on the ground. And what does that mean? That means while the engine's still running and it's just landed, you can refuel it and it can take off again. They don't have to shut the engines down to restart them like you have to do with many other aircraft. But here's the real weapon that Moscow is sweating over. The Gripen is fully compatible with the European-made Meteor air-to-air missile. This is widely considered the most effective long-range aerial missile in the world, with a range of up to 200 kilometers. Unlike normal missiles, the Meteor uses a ramjet engine. It screams through the sky, maintaining maximum speed and energy right up to the moment of impact, making it impossible for maneuvering targets to escape. This missile poses a direct existential threat to Russia's top-tier Su-35 fighters and their multi-million-dollar A-50 spy planes. Ukraine doesn't even need to shoot them down. The mere presence of the Meteor missiles will push Russian bombers so far back from the borders that they can no longer drop their devastating glide bombs on Ukrainian frontline positions. It is a massive technological leap forward. The turnaround crew required to get a Gripen back into the air isn't some massive team of specialized engineers. It takes just a single fuel truck, one qualified crew chief, 4 basic mechanics, and a utility van with the missiles. That is it. On a freezing roadside, a crew of 6 can have a Gripen refueled, rearmed with Meteor missiles, and back in the sky in under 10 minutes. For Russian military planners, trying to find and target these tiny hypermobile setups is an absolute nightmare. Putin's air supremacy is officially on borrowed time. Now let's widen our view and wargame exactly what Ukraine is planning next. For months, the big question has been whether Ukraine can launch a summer offensive. The data shows they're already setting the stage. Moscow's spring offensive has completely stalled. In fact, Russian forces have suffered a massive net loss of territory over the last 2 months. Putin's army is exhausted and Kyiv smells blood. The prime target? Crimea. Ukraine launched a massive coordinated strike across the peninsula and has choked off critical supply lines. More than 20 Ukrainian attack drones hit the critical naval port of Sevastopol, whilst precision missile strikes smashed military targets in Simferopol. This isn't just random bombardment, it is a highly calculated campaign to systematically eliminate Russia's air defensive. Kyiv is blinding Putin's forces before the real push begins. But the real story of this stalled Russian advance isn't just happening in Crimea. It's happening right across the zero line, where absolute Ukrainian drone superiority has frozen Putin's army in its tracks. The scale of this technology is terrifying. Prominent Russian military blogger Rybar has sounded the alarm, revealing that the armed forces of Ukraine now have up to 70 drones available for every single Russian soldier on the front line. If a Russian troop moves, changes position, or tries to dig a trench, they're immediately hunted by dozens of first-person view quadcopters. It has made large-scale Russian armoured movements virtually impossible. And that brings us to the pure mathematics of this war. The Finnish president recently confirmed that the casualty figures have tilted dramatically in Kyiv's favour. Right now, Russia is experiencing a devastating 8-to-1 kill ratio. For every single Ukrainian soldier lost, 8 Russian occupiers are being killed on the battlefield. As an intelligence planner, I can tell you that no army, not even Putin's, can sustain those kinds of losses. So is a full amphibious invasion of Crimea on the cards? Well, Ukraine doesn't need to storm the beaches. By using this overwhelming drone wall to choke Russian logistics and break their air defences, and this drone wall is covering from Russia through the occupied areas of Ukraine, this land bridge into Ukraine. At the same time, Ukraine is disrupting Russia's ability to utilise the Kerch Bridge or ferries that operate between the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea, crossing into Crimea, disrupting their logistics. They're forcing Putin into a slow, humiliating retreat without ever having to launch a bloody frontal assault. So what is this doing? This is effectively turning Crimea into somewhere that Putin can't operate from. He wants it. It's his jewel in the crown. It's the one thing that Putin wants to keep more than anything. But his land bridge is not safe anymore. He can't resupply it across the Kerch Bridge anymore. The people in Crimea are lacking water, fuel, food. You can't get fuel. You can't get petrol or diesel inside Crimea. It is slowly but surely being choked to death. This is a siege without having to surround it with troops. No, this isn't the next Mad Max movie. Russian forces took a standard cargo truck, cut the roof off completely and attached a trailer. The goal, to turn this bizarre creation into an improvised pontoon vehicle for river crossing operations. But Ukraine's Vodkovnevny unit spotted the rig as it was being moved forward towards the front line. Working together with adjacent artillery teams, they tracked it down to the water's edge. Before the Russians could even put their makeshift bridge to use, Ukrainian strikes blew it to pieces. Crossing a river is one of the most dangerous and complex operations an army can face. It requires specialist engineering vehicles, heavy armoured bridging units, and a tight anti-drone and anti-air cover. This shows just how desperate the invaders are for proper engineering equipment, how poorly trained they are, and how tightly Ukraine is watching every single move they make. But it also shows something we've seen across the front line in many different areas: innovation being used in a Mad Max style, trying to provide something that will do the job whenever their own logistics systems can't provide the properly designed military equipment to do it. There's ingenuity here, but the ingenuity just didn't work.